Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Mike Brewer with Fairfield Public Access Channel 9 for Chamber Talk for the week of June 12th, 1995. What a beautiful day it is outside today. We've had a great weekend. We certainly hope that the good weather will continue to help our agricultural friends here in Jefferson County get out in the fields and get their production work finished. Even though it is getting late, we do hope for the very best. Well, today we're at Rockwell International, as you can see by the background behind me. We will be greeting the plant manager, Pete McGluhan, in just one few moments here. First of all, I'd like to talk about some of the activities coming up. Tonight is City Council, and tomorrow the ambassadors will be meeting at 9:30 tomorrow morning with Jerry Headley. The chairperson of that group, Jim Levy from Des Moines, will be down in the afternoon to talk about some of the housing. And then the Iowa Cubs game, Chamber Night in Des Moines, will happen, and Janess Parker will be singing the national anthem, along with a 5 o'clock FEDA Housing Committee meeting Tuesday evening. Wednesday night is Business or Not at Hardee's, and be sure and bring your friends and come on out 4:30 to 6. Bob Harvey promises a great show. Thursday and Friday, I'll be at the Association of Business and Industry Conference in Lake Okoboji, and the Parsons Reunion begins on Thursday the 15th. We'll continue on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. The convocation is now scheduled for 10 o'clock Saturday morning the 17th in downtown Fairfield in Central Park. Sunday is Father's Day, and we certainly wish the very best to all of the fathers listening in tonight. Now we'd like to introduce our special guests, co-host Susan Kessel and plant manager Pete McGluhan. Well, welcome to Chamber Talk, Pete, and it's a real pleasure to be out here at Rockwell, and particularly to be here in front of the Rockwell insignia right at the entrance of the plant. I'm sure that the people are willing to put up with a little of the noise just to get a flavor of the Rockwell International plant here in Fairfield. Welcome.
Well, thank you. We're very pleased to have you and Suzanne here this afternoon.
And Suzanne, once again, it's a pleasure seeing you back co-hosting Chamber Talk show.
Thanks. It's great to be here. I'm glad we're not live and this is taped.
Well, Pete, I'd like for the viewers out here tonight to know a little bit more about you and about you personally, and how long you've been in Fairfield and how long you've been with Rockwell International, and maybe just a brief history.
Well, Mike, there's not a whole lot to know. I've been with Rockwell about 28 years now, about 18 years with the driveline division, having worked in Allegan and Singapore and finally at Fairfield, and of course they were the three driveline locations. We've been in Fairfield for about 3 years now, and we love it very, very much. Virginia and I have 7 children, spread all over the world. We have one in South Africa, and we have kids in California and Reno and Boston and all over the place. But we just love Fairfield.
Well, thank you very much. And of course, I'm always interested to see you and Virgie around town and talk with you, and to hear about some of the kids' activities, and particularly those that are far away, like in South Africa.
Right.
As you moved from the Singapore plant to the Fairfield plant, what kind of transition did you experience?
Well, an awful lot of people talk about repatriation and how difficult it is, but I have to tell you that it was easier moving from Singapore to Fairfield than it was, say, moving from Chicago to Allegan, Michigan. The people are very warm, very friendly. We adjusted very easily, and it was a very smooth and pleasant move.
Great. We're awfully happy to hear that. I'd like to shift gears just a little bit and talk about the professional side of the job, and if you would, tell our viewers out there tonight your official title and your job description as you see it.
Well, I am a plant manager of the Fairfield facility. This is part of the automotive division, which is made up of about 52 plants, both in the United States and elsewhere in the world. They do about $3 billion a year in sales, and we're a 2-plant division. We have a plant in Singapore and the plant here in Fairfield, and I am the plant manager here in Fairfield. We have no resident product design, and we have no sales force here. So all the functions associated with the plant comes under my responsibility. We do an awful lot of marketing and sales activity out of the plant, as we only have one salesperson. So pretty much the whole gamut other than product design.
And the product design, does that come from Rockwell or from the people that you're supplying drive lines to?
No, it comes from Rockwell. We have a very extensive design and testing facility in Troy, Michigan. In fact, we have the largest of all the automotive suppliers.
What current areas of the plant out here now are you most pleased with? Some of the new things that are coming online, or some of the things that you've brought online that you're happiest with?
Well, it's a little hard to talk about specifics, but I can tell you that we've had a number of activities to try and improve the throughput in the plant. And if I might, I'd like to spend a few moments and talk about 3 or 4 of them. One would be a process re-engineering, which is really a socio-technical redesign. And the technical redesign was completed when we moved Plant 2, which was the old Falco plant, now Pete Nelson's plant, right over here. And laid out, we moved about 350 pieces of equipment, and we moved them all out to cut down the length of time and space that it takes material to travel. And we're now into the social redesign, which is really trying to flatten the organization and empower the employees more. We're into something that we call constraint management, which is made up really of logistics and measurements. And what we try and do is identify the constraint, the bottleneck in the process, and we focus on that so as to maximize the throughput and eliminate the amount of effort that's put into the non-constraint pieces of equipment. We've come up with new measurements in an effort to have the employees identify with the goings-on in the plant. And these are real-time measurements. They know from day to day exactly what the sales were in their department. We are attempting to be certified in ISO, International Standards Organization, 9000 by the end of this year, which is a major, major undertaking. We've got a lot of things going on at one time. And we've recently entered into a partnership with Freightliner. And that is very unique. We are their supplier of choice for drive lines.
Is that right?
Yeah. So.
Now, while we're talking about Freightliner, which is a big name in the truck industry, would you mind sharing with us some of the other names that you supply drive lines for, not only in the truck industry, but in the off-highway equipment also?
Well, when we talk about drive lines, it's a little bit of a misnomer because this facility ships about 30% drive lines and about 70% loose components. So an awful lot of people assemble their own drive lines, or they will use our yokes on their transmissions or axles where they might do someone else's drive line.
Sure.
So we do sell drive lines to people like Caterpillar, Freightliner, John Deere, Mack Truck, just most of the who's who in truck OEMs.
Well, having been in Fairfield myself for a long period of time, I'd like you to kind of describe some of the transition that's taken place since Rockwell first came here, I believe in 1969, when it was primarily an agricultural equipment driveline manufacturing facility. And at this point in time, am I right in saying that you no longer manufacture for the agricultural industry?
You're absolutely right, Mike. The plant really was started probably in late 1960, early 1961, I believe. And of course, it was built here because of the proximity to the agricultural industry, John Deere in particular. And there's been an evolution, and really we have gravitated away from the ag product because of the number of competitors in that area. It became very, very competitive, and have gone more into construction and on-highway type componentry. We've had a number of expansions since 1960, primarily consolidations, product transfers from other facilities. And this is the first time in the history of the driveline division that we've had all the North American manufacturing under one roof.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Right here?
Right here, yeah. Our latest expansion here in 1992, 50,000 square feet. It gives us about 230,000 square feet here.
Now, for everyone listening out there tonight, that's approximately 4.5 acres under roof then.
Is it? I'm not sure. You're a better mathematician than I am. Okay.
And I'm just sitting here listening. All of this is new to me, so don't have very many questions to ask. So I hope everyone else is learning like I am.
Good.
How many employees do you have currently?
Just a shade over 500 employees today. 500
all under the one roof.
Yeah, we have 2 satellite facilities that assemble right in very close proximity to truck OEMs. We have one in Portland, Oregon, and we have another in York, South Carolina, both of which are the responsible for this responsibility of this location here. And there's probably around 50 employees at those 2 locations.
What do you see in the future as far as new products, plant growth, additional employees?
Well, we see a lot of innovative things going on. We're kind of in a transitionary period. We've got a relatively mature age workforce here, and we've hired about 80 people here recently. Some of that was due to retirements, natural attrition, and things. Industry is demanding that they get longer life out of their products because of the cost of bringing equipment in and tearing it down for servicing and things. So we are going to permanently lubricated product. We started out in the construction area. Because of the difficulties in getting access to the equipment in the field and things, they demanded something that would be permanently lubricated and give them long intervals between service. We then went to the marine industry, offered the very same type of product offering there. And we have a new innovation that we think is going to capture the market by storm, and that's a driveline that will be guaranteed for a minimum of 350,000 miles for on-highway application, and we hope to introduce that sometime early next year.
350,000 miles, a long time to run a truck across the United States.
Well, that probably represents about 18 months of normal truck usage. Yeah. Those rigs are on the go all the time.
Well, that's very, very good to know, and we're certainly very pleased to be able to visit today with Pete McLuhan at Rockwell International. And now I'd like to take a break in the action, and we'll move over to what I'd like to call show and tell, and we'll show you some of the finished product items before we take the plant tour.
Real good.
And we're back again live with Pete McLuhan as our guest at Rockwell International, and we're standing here, Susan, in front of a Rockwell International driveline.
What we're looking at, Mike, is really a typical construction type driveline. This would be something you'd find on a Caterpillar bulldozer, for example, a D10 bulldozer. And the reason for that is the ease of serviceability. They can change out the universal joint kit here in the field, and these are the fuse in a driveline. These are designed to fail before you tear up your whole driveline. So this is a construction style. What is unique about this particular offering, and it's a little hard to see, is we have a permanently lubricated kit on this side, and we have a relubable kit on this end to demonstrate the 2 product offerings.
This is a large one by all standards, but not the largest you make.
No, by no means not the largest that we make or the largest that's used, but it is one of the larger products that is made here. Go ahead. Just going to say.
Let's move across, and we'll take a look at some of the other items. These are some of the finished product items that Rockwell International manufactures right here in Fairfield. And starting at the very top, Pete, if you would, tell us about that one.
That is a typical driveline that you would see on a Class 8 vehicle, which is a normal semi. Each one of these semis have between 2 and 4 of these drivelines on them. Class 8 vehicles. This is a little bit more of a unique product, and this is a front drive steer axle used primarily in a military application. And the balance of the product here is a mixture of half round yokes, full round end yokes, flange yokes, slip yokes, and of course we've sectioned them to show a little bit of the machining that's going on here. And these are various components that go into an assembly like this.
So it's those pieces that make up the piece we just saw.
That's right.
Okay, now I know what a driveline is.
A driveline, in lay terms for you and I, Susan, transmits power from the engine, from the power source, back to the drive source, meaning the tires, wheels, tracks, whatever the case may be.
Yeah. Normally a transfer of energy from the transmission back to the drive axis.
And that has to be flexible. You see, that's the reason why these pieces are made, because as the vehicle goes up, down, and around, turns, etc., the power has to be able to bend.
Yeah, that accommodates both the terrain as well as the structure of the truck, where it has to go around various frame members and things. So, I don't know whether you can see it here. But
yeah, Richard, can you bring your camera and get over here?
Richard says no.
Richard says he can't get his camera over here, so we won't be able to take a look at the two showcases, and you've got some brake drums over there.
One of the things that you can't see, but I'll just mention, is this is a stern drive for the marine industry. We supply about 99% of the domestic stern drive requirements, Mercury and OMC, and those people being our largest customer. We offer both a lube for life and a relubable version of that. Over here we have a steering assembly, and it's really a shame if we're not going to be able to see these. This is a steering assembly that would go to someone like Ford truck. We have a brake drum, and this is a parking brake that is used for people like Navistar and General Motors. This particular one is a Navistar. We have a series of small components, spline plugs, end yokes that go into various drive lines. This is a small construction type subassembly here that again would be used on a smaller ag or construction type vehicle. This is a hanger bracket, and of course they have to suspend these drive lines from the frame of whatever vehicles they go on, so they use something like this with a rubber cushion that dampens the amount of vibration that you would see. This is a General Motors type parking brake here. We make a lot of parking brakes. In fact, we're the only ones in the industry that make that type of a parking brake. We have a series of autonomous departments here, and each one of these are run as profit centers. This is the steering area here where we assemble. What they do is they press and weld steering assemblies here, as you can see, taking place at the present time. So first it's pressed, and then the components are welded together.
When you're ready.
These components that we saw on the board earlier, they're all pressed into an assembly like this. The assembly is then welded and taken over here for balancing. Now each component is individually static balanced, and then after they're assembled, they're taken over here for a dynamic balance. This particular drive line will spin at about 3,000 RPM to ensure that there's absolutely no vibration when it's on the vehicle. You see, he's simulating the way it would be located in a vehicle, in a truck.
Are every single one tested?
Yes, they test them 100%. And as I say, every individual component that goes into it, with the exception of the piece of tubing that you see, are all individually balanced. And then after they're assembled, in case they're a little bit off, they then rebalance them again.
That's really reassuring, I think.
Well, reassuring, and also it gives a much smoother ride. I mean, you've been in a vehicle, sometimes it starts vibrating at a certain speed, and that's usually due to something being out of balance. But we sequence set all of the Freightliner drive lines. This particular drive line you're looking at here goes to the Freightliner plant in St. Thomas, Ontario, and we have their build a week before they actually build them. We build them specifically to lengths to their requirements, and you know, they just take them off the rack and put them on the truck. They're all already built exactly the way they need them.
Pete, is that part of the Quality Assurance Award, for example, that you received from Caterpillar several years ago?
We have received an award every year, Mike, from Caterpillar, and you're absolutely right. That is based on a combination of customer responsiveness, awareness to their needs, as well as any rejections that they would have in their facility.
So you see, by doing all this testing, Suzanne, it gives the people that are buying these drive lines the assurance that every piece is going to be the same, and the quality is going to be 100%.
I can really see the need for that.
Yeah, that's called repeatability. Now what they do is they put small balance weights on these, and we will take maybe up to 2 or 3 ounces and add to a specific location, which will then put it back in perfect balance.
And that balancing is all done with a computer up there on the screen on the left.
Yes it is.
Okay, we're back live again out in the plant with Pete McLuhan at Rockwell International, and Susan is holding up a part of a brake drum, and we're going to let Pete explain to you what's going on at this station.
Well, Mike, the part that Suzanne is holding is a flange yoke, and you can see there's been significant machining done to it, including the broaching down through the center part of it. It is then assembled onto this brake drum. Now, the brake drum is fabricated. We buy that and bring it in. It is then assembled on this device, and Jeff over here is balancing it. As of the drive lines that we saw earlier, these components are also spun at a very high RPM and balanced. There we go. Okay.
Now we're talking once again with Pete McLuhan. We're looking down one of the aisles toward the Marine Department. And Pete, if you would, tell us a little bit about some of the items you manufacture for outboard marine and Mercury.
This again is a finished prop shaft made up of a series of components. It's hard to believe, but we ship 650 of these 5 days a week, year-round, 52 weeks of the year. Our poor legs must be saturated with inboard-outboard boats, but again, very dominant in that industry, and we supply both Mercury and OMC with their inboard-outboard requirements.
Now, as we pan over here to the left, we can take a look at some of the heat treat operation over there. And Pete, if you would, tell us about the heat treat operation and what gets heat treated and why it gets treated.
We do a lot of heat treating here, Mike. This happens to be a carburizing furnace. We do an awful lot of induction heating also. This is a pusher type carburizing furnace. The material that's in there right now is friction welded. This is another unique process where we take an individual yoke and a bar of steel and we weld them again together through inertia spinning, and then we stress relieve them in this particular furnace here. And most of the parts before they're ground are induction hardened, so we do a great deal of heat treating of almost all of our yokes.
Thank you very much.
We're now in Department 704, or the construction department, where components for John Deere, Caterpillar, those type of folks are made. What we have here is 2 NC machines where the parts start out as a rough casting or a forging like this, and they are turned, drilled, bored, and turned complete. The uniqueness about this department is that where we normally run 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 components in one of the other areas like heavy truck, the average run here is 10 pieces. So flexibility is the name of the game, and that's why we use primarily NC equipment here.
We're back with Pete McLuhan in another station in a heavy truck application.
Mike, we visited the assembly area, the brake drum area, the steering area, the construction area. Now we're in the heavy truck area, and we're looking at an end yoke here which starts out as a forging. Go ahead. So, I'm sorry. It starts out as a forging. It has a preliminary cross-bore operation, but again, it goes in this series of NC lathes here, where they drill, bore, turn, and counterbore the part. Now, these particular components here, we might run as many as 5,000 a month. We're back in the construction area. We were looking at running 10 pieces of a particular series. So very high volume product here, and again, for the heavy trucking industry. And these particular components would go onto the axle, and this is what the driveline hooks up onto.
Now, to go one notch further, to explain to the public, the machine that we're looking at right here does all of these various operations all with one setting. Is that right?
All within the one setting, right. And the tooling indexes, and of course you will start out with the drill, and then it bores, and then it comes down and turns the hub all the way down through. So all of those stations are done complete. It is then transferred over to one of the hydrams where they do the counterbore operation here.
Thank you.
We're standing at the top of the stairs leading into the engineering department, which gives us a bit of a panoramic view, and we're looking down at the far end of the shop where we see the final inspection and the shipping area. And as we swing the camera around, we're passing the assembly area, which we visited earlier on. You can see a number of drive lines that are lined up to be shipped to Freightliner St. Thomas. We're now looking at the steering department. There are a number of individual machines which machine the components prior to assembly. In the background, you can see the tool room. We are pretty much self-sufficient. We make an awful lot of our fixtures, resharpen our tooling, that type of thing. And then we move over into the heavy truck area, and you can see some racks in between where material is queued up, waiting for deflectors to be assembled or to be welded on.
We're back again where we started from. Suzanne, we've been on a tour of Rockwell International with Pete McLuhan, and I trust that you've been as fascinated and learned as many things as I have today.
I sure have. It's been really interesting.
Pete, we want to thank you for your taking your time to show us through the plant, to talk to us, and to show the viewing public tonight some of the action that's going on in the workplace here in Fairfield, Iowa at Rockwell International.
Well, Mike, thank you very much. And on behalf of all of the employees here at Rockwell, we want to thank you and Suzanne for coming over and invite you back again sometime real soon.
Well, we'll certainly plan on doing that. This program may be shown again, and we were talking about that earlier. And so if people didn't have an opportunity to see it tonight, we'll try and work it in on Channel 9 once again. And up here to my right is the Rockwell driveline sign that we have been guests of this afternoon on Fairfield Public Access Channel 9.